Welcome to another video for WinBidPro version 16 by GDS Estimating. I have here a couple elevations that don't have any glass in them yet. So let's talk about how do you add glass to your job, to your elevations. The other video we have is, or another video I made is about editing and adding parts to the glass table. So that's kind of the origin of where the glass comes from. And as I mentioned there, the glass table is applied to the entire program. So it doesn't matter what catalog you're working in, what job you're working in, it's always going to be the same glass table. And since this is cloud-based, any user in your company account will also see the same glass table. So the next step is going to the glass tab and then adding glass to an elevation. So you'll notice it kind of changes the drawing a little bit by adding these white boxes around the daylight openings. That means it's basically in a different tab and ready to accept some input. So right now we're in add mode. By default we're in by row, but you'll notice there's no glass parts listed here. So the first thing we do is click on add parts to job, or products to job, I guess, and then it shows you your entire glass list, and then from here we can pick a certain type of glass to add for the job. So you're never going to see the entire list of glass here anymore. That was in our old 15 program. It's only going to show you what's been added to the job. So it makes it a little simpler when you're adding glass to different elevations or you're trying to see what glass is being used. That's the reason we kind of switched to this method. So I'm going to add a tempered, and I'm also going to add an annealed for 1-inch insulated. And now I've got my two types of glass. So the way I like to do it sometimes is I can add it to the entire elevation by clicking by elevation. I'll click on tempered, and then I'll say, or I'll click anywhere in the elevation, and it'll add that type of glass to the entire elevation. So you know it's been added because it changed the color, and it also shows you this show label code, and that's what you see in these fields here. And those can be edited at the job level. They can also be edited back in the glass table at the master level. And it's something you always want to try and make sure you have for a glass part is that show label. Another thing that we haven't talked about is the fill pattern. So there's different fill patterns you can have for glass. And let's look at diagonal. So if I go to diagonal fill pattern and I save that by clicking off of that row, you'll see right away how it changes the pattern for that glass. So that's helpful if you want to have alternating rows with different patterns, or a certain light of glass is different, whether it's spandrel or something totally different. You can use the fill pattern to differentiate from one type of glass to another. So I can go back to default just to make it look more colorful. And again, I'll click off of that record to save. So now, if I wanted to change just a couple lights to make them annealed, I click on the annealed row here, and then I'll go to by light. And I can say, I want that one annealed, and that one. So if that's the case, you'll see if I zoom in, it's now got the show label for the annealed glass there, but the tempered on the others. So that's pretty much it. So if you wanted to delete glass, you just hit the delete option and start clicking on either rows or lights or the entire elevation, and it'll remove that glass. So if we want to add glass to a different elevation, I can, there's a bunch of different ways to get to different elevations. I can use the little arrows, or I can use the tabs if they're already opened, or I can click over here to a different tab. So if I click there, it shows me the other elevation. This one, let's just say we do it by row. And then I can say for annealed glass, I'm going to add that here. And then for tempered, I'm going to add it in the other rows. So you can see how simple it is just to click and add glass in different ways. So between the fill pattern and being able to edit some things here and clicking on the elevation, making sure you have the right thing selected, glass is pretty intuitive and easy to use. So that's about it for adding glass to your job. Thank you.